You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
It was an unexpectedly news-filled day on Tuesday. For those of you who don't know, Sheridan head coach Bud Wright, who's been there for 59 years, was forced to resign today, essentially. Michelle spoke with the Indianapolis Star's Kyle Nedenrip, who spoke with Coach Wright, and she's going to give you some details here in a minute. And then I earlier tonight spoke with Oak Hill head coach Bud Ozmun, who was on his Coach Wright's staff for a while, and his thoughts on a guy he considered his mentor.
It's just a tough thing. I hate that for Bud. Like I have said, he was always nothing but gracious to me. He could be a little gruff at times, especially after he lost. But as I've been told by many coaches, show me a coach who's not gruff after they lose, and then you're going to show me a coach that's not very successful. I mean, losing sucks, to put it mildly, or should. I mean, if it doesn't, then and granted, it's all in perspective, but it does suck. But anyway, I hate that for Bud. I remember back, he didn't really always have his stats online or whatever, but I could call him on a Wednesday. If Tipton or Tri-Central was playing him on Friday for a matchup on Thursday, I could call Bud on Wednesday or first thing Thursday morning, and he would come on the phone and he'd make sure I got what I needed, and always just easygoing, always made himself accessible after games to talk to, before games. I think he and Coach, the late George Gilbert, got along really well. They had a lot of respect between the two. Don't get me wrong; they were they were rivals. It's part of their conferences, but they got tremendous respect between the two. And then current Tri-Central coach, a lot of respect. I know Coach Mike Toll and Coach Aaron Toll. The Tolls both have a lot of respect for Bud and what he has accomplished in his career. And you think about it, at 83, to be still coaching at 83, because I remember when Mike gave it up, and he was just talking about, like, that last year, how just exhausted he was. Come Thursday nights, he was just so exhausted.
What have you learned today about it?
What I've learned today about Bud is that I think Sheridan is saying that they thought they had a mutual agreement that this would be his last year. But that's not Bud's understanding. Bud felt like he was forced to resign, or he would have been let go. He had missed a game earlier this year because of administrative leave. He didn't really get into that a whole lot with Kyle. But obviously they didn't have, because they were the administrative leave to give the program to do a review of the football program. And part of what happened was they wanted him to have a couple coaches for associate head coaches, brought in two, one of them being his son, Kevin Wright, who just retook the job at Carmel, and the other being a former Sheridan player, Jake Chesney. And so they coached with him. At the end of the season, we come to this. Sheridan has not named anybody yet. They'll probably open it up. Bud says he's not. He doesn't believe he's done coaching, and he'll probably look an assistant's job somewhere. And he's not ruling out that he won't do that at Carmel with his son Kevin. I
bet he would enjoy that.
I think he wouldn't. People, Bud's wife died a few years ago, and I really believe it's one of the reasons he continues to coach. He loves it. He loves being around the kids and just different things. And I just, as long as he's able. But it is funny because I do remember a few years ago, and I remember Bud kind of, I don't know, not knowing how much longer he was going to do it. And I think it was after Sheridan and maybe kind of hit a couple years there where maybe they weren't quite as predominant as they had been in the past, and all of a sudden, the following year comes along and man, they're good, really put together and really have a really good team again, and kind of rejuvenated him. And that and the kids, I just think the kids and a lot of his former players, especially older players, I think have a lot of love and respect for Bud. Like I said, I'm good friends with Todd Harris, and he and both his brothers played for Coach Wright at Sheridan. His parents, Todd's parents, who are no longer, or who are both deceased, I know they thought the world of Bud and thought what a wonderful influence he was on their boys, and they liked the fact that he was tough and just, a no-nonsense coach, because I think they thought they had some ornery boys, and that was a good thing. Jason Urban, now the principal of Fishers High School, former Tipton football assistant coach, former Tipton athletic director. He was a player under Coach Wright, and he went on to play at DePaul. His dad, Jason's dad, coached under Bud Wright. Of course, you have the Zacharys that came through there. Of course, one of the Indiana football legends played for Coach Bud Wright, Brett Law. So, he's won a lot. He's won a ton of games, of course, because he's the winningest coach.
463 victories at Sheridan. Quite a resume, of course. The 9 state championships, 1980, 84, 87, 88, 92, 98, 2005, 2006, and 2007 as a state champion. And again, this podcast doesn't get into controversies. That's not going to be our role at all. And I'm not going to take a side because I have no idea what happened. But I want to say that legends deserve leeway.
Yes, Kyle and I said that we hate it because we always imagined that Bud at some point would just say, hey, this is going to be it, one more year, or this is it, and there would be some sort of fanfare or some honor. They final football game at Sheridan, honor him a little bit, maybe throw a party, afterwards, invite some former players. And not to say that that won't happen down the road. It's just a shame that that's not the way it gets to go out, and you hate to think it. I mean, he's being forced out at a school where the football field is named after him.
Here is Oak Hill head coach Bud Ozmun, who again was an assistant coach under Bud Wright and had a lot of nice things to say about it.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengel.
Coach Ozmun, thanks for joining us once again. Always so nice of you to spend your time with us. As everybody probably knows by now, legendary coach Bud Wright has resigned from his coaching position at Sheridan. Apparently told Kyle Neddenrip that he plans on coaching in some fashion next year somewhere. What are your thoughts, Coach?
Well, I think it's, it's kind of a sad day, that Coach Wright had to go out this way. He deserves better. The state of high school football knows that he deserves better. He should have had the opportunity to end things on his own terms. If anybody's ever earned that or deserves that, that's Bud Wright. What an incredible career that he's had. I was fortunate to be an assistant coach for Bud for 4 years in the mid to late 90s. Was fortunate enough to be part of his 98 state championship. And he is the reason why I can still be a coach after all these years. I mean, I left Sheridan in 99 to come to Oak Hill. And had I not spent 4 years with them, I wouldn't have been able to last as long as I have here, because I give all the credit to the longevity, and any success that we have is directly based on Bud Wright being my mentor and teaching me about coaching kids and coaching football. So for me, I just wish he had that opportunity to kind of go out and on his own. The circumstances just they are what they are, and people have their own agendas, and sometimes the what we believe is right isn't what everybody else believes is right. So I do believe that he's not done with football. I don't know what he would do without football. So what he does and goes from there, that's in his hands. But I don't believe he's sitting up in the stands or sitting at home next fall on a Friday night.
If you include longevity, you have to say he's the greatest to ever do it, right?
Well, even without longevity, I think he's the greatest that ever does it, and I truly believe that. I mean, you look at what he has done. He's done it at a 1A school. He has almost a 70, I think it's between a 65 and 70% winning percentage. The majority of his career, he scheduled up. He's a 1A school, and he was playing 2, 3,
Absolutely.
and sometimes 4A schools. And maybe he went 6-4 in the regular season, but he had his team prepared for playoff football and long-term playoff football. And that was always his philosophy. He always wanted to win, but if he was playing better competition, he knew he was preparing himself for the playoffs. And so to me, I at one time he had more state championships than anybody else, but I know that others have passed him. Bigger schools, some of the private schools have passed him in some of those categories. He's got more wins than anybody else in Indiana high school football history. Um, and then to be able to do it as successful as he has from, starting in 1965, 9 state championships, and even a sectional championship this year, a regional championship last year. So it's not like the game passed him by. I mean, he's still winning, still very successful. And like I said, I wish he had the opportunity to do things on his own terms. Um, but like I said, I don't see him being out of football for very long.
What's a thing or two, if you don't mind? I know it's going to be hard to narrow it down, that you learned most from him that made you successful, like you talked about.
Well, I think, and not necessarily that I learned it, but it validated what you already know is you're going to win with kids, and kids got to be able to trust you. They got to be able to believe in you. And part of that is when you're wrong, you admit you're wrong. And you show the kids that what you're doing, you're trying to do the best for them. And when it doesn't turn out that way, admit to the kids you were wrong. Admit that this was on me, the head coach. And I really feel like that was something that really made sense to me. And I would watch him and whatever we would do when we were there, and if we lost, so many times he put the blame on himself and took it off the kids. And then the kids, that makes them respect him more, and want to make sure that the next time out there, they're even more successful than they were before. And then, more on an X and O is just be as prepared as possible. Bud Wright would watch film like nobody you would ever believe. The first year I got hired, I was still single, and I went to his house on a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, and I left his house at 9 p.m. And you're just watching film all day. Now that didn't happen the rest of the time. Actually, Jane, his wife at the time, kind of chewed him out about keeping a single guy like that, like me at the time, that long. So it shortened, but that didn't shorten his time watching film. He was always as prepared as could be. And I know that continued, long after I left. And that's something that, I tried to bring in is try to be as prepared for your opponent as you can possibly be.
At big schools, sometimes you can be loaded with talent every year. That is never the case at a small school. So to do what he's done at a school that size in a town that size, so consistently, is an amazing feat in itself.
Yeah, it is. And you look at the teams, and one of the teams around here is Eastbrook. Eastbrook being a 2A school, not not the highest enrollment, but every year, they produce great teams or quality teams, and that is rare. That is hard to do. And then you take Sheridan, which is 200 kids less than an Eastbrook size school,
Right.
and he's doing it every year, and he's he's doing it in the playoffs. He's doing it against bigger teams, and he's got um, you know third and fourth generation families that play for him, and when they come in and they want to play for him, and when you go in and you believe you're going to win just because he's the head coach, that makes a big difference. But when you do it with a school about 350, and you do have the success he has, it's a pretty remarkable feat.
It really is. Thank you so much for your time, Coach. Always appreciate it. And like you said, kind of a sad day.
Yeah, it is. Haven't had a chance to talk to him since I heard the news. The news just kind of came out today. So I am looking forward to talking to him and just seeing how he's doing. So he's a good man, as good a man as he is a coach. And whatever this is, he'll rebound, and he'll be coaching somewhere next fall.
Thanks to Coach Osmond for joining us and sharing his thoughts. And thank you, Michelle, for joining me. Your final thoughts on Coach Wright and the news of the day.
Well, again, I hate it for Coach Wright. Great guy. I mean, great guy. Obviously a great coach. You can't have the success he's had and not be a great coach. I always hate to see it when a coach like Coach Wright cannot leave on his own terms. Um, I, would think that, they should have been able to have a big party or something for him. But, I'm also, well, I think he should be able to leave on his own terms if, that's Sheridan's prerogative if they feel like they need to go in a new direction. I just think maybe communication wise, it could have been handled a little bit clearer. Um, so I do hate that. As far as the big news of the day, again, I want to try to reach out back out to Kyle Neddenrip. Kyle, if you listen to this, you're not on there because I think I messed up. I was getting an incoming call when I was talking to you, and I hit to send it to voicemail, and I think it cut off the recording, even though the phone was a new app that I downloaded. But thanks to Greg, now I know, and the icon finally popped up because I did try it before I downloaded that app and it wasn't there, but now I've got it on my phone, so I can actually um, cancel the subscription to that app now before it's going to cost me anything. And then I have the actual real thing now, so I can record that, and hopefully Kyle will be able to find time to for us to do that again. But I'm going to say this, and just in case he can't, because I ended it with this, folks. Kyle's got a great story out there already on Coach Wright. He'll have more. He did a wonderful job covering the state finals, and there is no one that covers high school sports better in the state of Indiana than Kyle Neddenrip of the Indianapolis Star. And so, again, I work for a local newspaper. Greg's been doing that. Folks, if you don't want to see your local newspapers die and you want high school coverage, parents, everybody else, then you can't let your newspapers die, because I will say this, once you lose a paper, it's not coming back. And I don't know that you realize just how much you can actually get from your local newspaper.
Thanks, Michelle. And you're right. Kyle is fantastic at what he does. And by the way, go and read his stuff, all of his stuff on Coach Wright today. Thank you so much, Michelle.